Hey everyone, welcome back. Just getting the transmission cleaned up so we can start getting the engine and transmission back in the car. A little dirty. I'm not going to bore you guys with watching me brush all the stuff off this thing. We're not going to paint it. We're not going to do anything special to it. We're cleaning up, getting it ready to go in. You saw the engine's ready to go in, and I've decided that I'm going to put them in separately. I'm not going to try and muscle them in as an assembly. I've done that before. I've taken them out, and it's a pain. It's tough. And the one thing I don't want to do is scratch any of the paint inside the engine compartment. It'll be a lot easier putting the engine in, supporting it across the fenders, and tilting it down a little bit, sliding the transmission underneath, and then popping it back up into place. So much easier. But what I am going to do is I'm going to get the brackets I need on the transmission for the low car throttle kickdown, the throttle pressure kickdown. Get that on. I got to find the bracket for the cooler lines that goes up here somewhere, and we'll get that set up, and then we'll drop the engine in, support it, slide the transmission in, be good to go. Follow along. Here's a little tip for you. Since I'm putting the transmission in separately from the engine, I'm test fitting the flex plate to the torque converter beforehand. Well, why? Well, Mopar puts these bolts just kind of off a little bit on each side. So you get underneath the car, you go to put your torque converter bolts into your flex plate, and you get the first one done, spin it around, and you find it doesn't quite line up. You gotta spin it back, take it off. You got 4 chances to get it right. Unless you get it right now, and then you mark it. There. Now when I get underneath, I'll be able to spin this one down, spin the torque converter where I need it. The other ones will fall in place. Easy peasy. Got my low car cable out here, and this is all set up already. This is going to bolt down to the intake manifold up by the throttle body. This is the gas pedal cable right here. And this is the cable that goes all the way up from here. It kind of loops around like this. So I'm going to get this bolt here out of the housing. So it's going to go back. That's going to come up, fit on the pressure lever right there. And then, and I didn't do this before, see if I'll put some kind of clip over here to keep the cable snug to the transmission housing. Let's see if we can't come up with something for that. But this is going to go right here. Get that tightened down. At least we got that done. Believe me, putting this on under the car with it installed in the car was no fun. And if you've ever worked on an early A-body Mopar, Plymouth, or a Dodge Dart, Valiant, getting underneath there, there's not a lot of room in there. So doing this now is going to be a huge advantage. So we'll crank this down, get that tight. Lined up. Want to make sure we have room for our cooler line, which we will. Snap this in place. There. And that's got a good angle to it. I don't know if you can see that. It looks like that bracket, you can see it there, comes off and kicks in a little bit, so it's kind of this way, but when it pulls, let me pull it from this side here. It pulls nice and straight. So when you hit the throttle and it goes, and you want to kick down, it pulls that pressure and knows right where you're at and gives you full pull. Let's see, I should check the torque specs, but wait, 1, 2, 3, ugga-duggas, good, we're tight. Well, I dug through my bin of spare little bracket parts and come up with this little gem here. and it's going to fit perfectly right over here, like that. And I'll be able to give this a nice adjustment so it's got a perfect loop for the cable. And we'll take a hose clamp, like a small fuel line clamp, and tighten this right here. What's nice is this bracket has a bit of a groove in it. I don't know if you can see that. See? Yeah, there we go. So the cable will lay nicely in there, clamp down tight, and keep this from flopping around on that side. Kind of like that. Yeah, that's good. I like it. I love it. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Douglas. Sweet. I'm also starting to think that I might want to move this bracket down to this bolt on the tail shaft. I'm worried about the clearance between the transmission and the floor, the tunnel underneath. This might be in the way, might not, but if I just come down a little further, I'm still going to have plenty. So I'm going to move that. All right, I got my bracket moved down. Yeah, I'm a little happier with that. And I'm going to use another fuel line clamp, but this time what I did was I bent it down at that angle first, close to the nut. So it'll, instead of trying to spin the thing around as it tightens up, it'll pull the tail in and then tighten up nicely. That's the plan anyway. Let's see if that actually works. There we go. Oh, that's that. Oh, yeah. Nice. Got plenty of slack, got a nice loop. We should be good to go. All right, well, we picked up one of those Harbor Freight engine supports, and this is going to work pretty well. Got it set up on the fender edges themselves. That's going to support the engine until I get the transmission in. Since this thing has these massive wing nuts here like this, I set it a little more forward so it's going to pick up like right in this area here to support the engine. So that's why I put 2 hooks on the back of the engine to help hold it up nice and level. And we got the chain on, so let's lift this thing off the stand, put the flex plate on with a little Loctite, and drop the engine into the engine bay. It helps when you remember which part of the engine goes toward the firewall and which part of the engine goes toward the front. Let me spin this around. All right, engine's back home. Now transmission's got to go in. This engine support's working really well. I'm glad I put the second anchor in the back to use the second chain, because the two of them are actually helping support it nice and level. So we're back in. Motor mounts are lined up. They're not tight. Obviously, we want to put the transmission in first, get that mount up, get it leveled off. Kind of, if we have to adjust it side to side, we will. But next up, transmission. Well, there you go. We got the engine back in the car. Major, major milestone. Can't believe we're here. So there's a lot more work to do. Believe me, this was literally 2 hours worth of work to get the engine off the stand, flex plate on, transmission up in there. It's in with a few bolts. It's setting on the transmission cross member. There's more to do. I got to get the torque converter connected and a lot more done. I can tell you one thing, it is much easier getting the transmission cooler lines in place with the radiator and everything off the front of the car. So I'm going to leave it here for today. There's more to do. Clearly, there's all the brackets and all the rest of the engine bay stuff to get back together. More to do underneath. I still got to reconnect the brake lines, pump that all out, make sure that it's bled out, make sure there's no leaks in the system. Still a lot to go through before we're ready for any kind of driving. And we're looking for probably springtime before that happens. Hey, smash that like button. And if you like what we're doing here on the channel, subscribe. And we'll catch you next time.